Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Room 2 of this year's IURC annual event. Just to make sure you are in the correct room, the topic of our breakout room is Urban and Regional Renewal and Social Cohesion. This will be moderated by Ms. Trisha Hackett, who is coming from the IURC Latin America North America team. My name is Ivana Ray Almora, coming to you from the IURC Central Coordination Service Unit. Before we start, we wanted to remind you that you can use Interactio on your phone to have access to the live interpretation of the session. So you can listen to this session in Spanish or Portuguese. You can find the instructions on the screen now, either on your phone or on your browser. Please don't forget to mute the hop-in tab so that you will be able to hear the sound in Spanish or Portuguese. And so without further ado, I'd like to turn over the screen to Ms. Trisha Hackett to introduce the session speakers.
Great. Thank you so much, Ivana, for the introduction. So as Ivana mentioned, I have the great pleasure of working as the leader for city-to-city cooperation with the IURC program in Latin America, and also the senior advisor in sustainable urban development with the North America region. I am based in Medellin in Colombia. And I also had the great pleasure of working as a leader for city-to-city cooperation on part of an action planning task force in the first phase of the IUC program. So I'm in my fourth year, and I hope to see in the audience some new friends and old friends from the last program. So before we went live, that in the past, this session has been in real life in Brussels, and a great opportunity to meet people from around the world who are working in sustainable urban development. So this is a scaled down virtual version, but we certainly hope to see many of you in real life in Brussels in the coming years of the program. So for those of you who had the time to listen to the opening sessions of this event, I think it's important to hear from those in the European Commission who have the responsibility for both developing and implementing policy related to sustainable urban development, the EU, the Green Deal, the European agenda, EU European agenda, and of course global agenda is a global covenant of mayors and the sustainable urban development goals. And for me, what I really love about being involved in the IURC program is that it's a way to have the kind of a practical expression, kind of on the ground landing of those very high level, very important goals. So that first part of the session contextualize it, and this session, which our goal is to be inspirational and participatory as much as possible. So the second half will have the opportunity for kind of open forum and networking for those of you in the audience. So please be thinking of your questions and things you'd like to share with us. And one of I think the important evolution of the program from the first phase to the second phase is that we really listened to cities and regions from the last phase, and we had learning as a program. And one of the things that we heard very clearly was that cities loved working with their partner, who they were paired with, and having that chance to work really in depth with another city. But they also really appreciated the opportunity working in a more multilateral way. So we had a few opportunities in the last phase, and in this phase, it has been that those opportunities have been increased to work more. And we heard a little bit in the first part of the program as well. So some of our cities, like Cali, for example, and Barranquilla in Colombia, who are working together with Malaga and Encielazo Roma in a cluster, because we saw that these are cities that are working on things that are very similar. So we have multilateral, bilateral clusters, which I think is a really interesting and important innovation, and it very much came from bottom up from what we heard. The cities really wanted to hear and have the opportunity to learn not only from their partners, the richness that we have. We're very lucky to have an amazing cohort of cities involved. And we consider the cities who are involved in the first IUC phase to be very much still part of the family, and I saw many of them were in the audience here today. And another innovation, I would say, or evolution in the program is whereas in the first phase we started off broad at the Sustainable Urban Development Goals, which are still important, of course, but recognizing that that there would be a benefit of and looking across the first phase what the cities and regions actually ended up focusing on. So, and we heard some great comments about this in the beginning of this event, but that why we moved to a more of a cluster model, which isn't easy because it's very broad and they're still broad, but the idea is that we create kind of a structure for learning between the cities. So we developed these three principal clusters. So, and these are the three breakout sessions. And those of you in the audience know you can can be like butterflies and go between the sessions, although we hope you stay with us. There's one on ecological transition and the Green Deal, topics like circular economy, innovation and sustainable carbon neutral ecosystems and strategic structures. And then our session, which are here today with us in urban and regional renewal and social cohesion. So how we decided to structure that, and just to say, that topic is still very broad, our topic. So we're looking at what we mean by that is urban planning and public space, mobility and transport, urban poverty, deprived neighborhoods, housing and cohesion. So throughout the next 2 years of the program, we'll be having clusters and events that relate to these topics. So it's kind of an organizing tool, if you will, and looking, of course, at the always keeping in mind the transversal, very important digital and smart and COVID and post-COVID recovery. So the structure of this session is we're very lucky to have with us both IURC City and a region who are going to tell us about interesting and inspirational processes and projects and pilots going on in their city and region. And then we'll have an open forum. So please be thinking of your questions for the presenters. And then later we'd like to hear from you. So the audience, have a chance to tell us about your interesting policies, projects, and pilots in this area. So the idea is that cities are the cohort of IUR cities get to hear more about what you're doing. So without further ado, it's my great pleasure to introduce Nicola Masella from the wonderful city of Naples. Naples in this phase of the program is paired with Manaus in Brazil, and they're focusing on urban sustainable agenda, culture and tourism for the historical city center. And Nicola can tell you more about that. It's a very interesting and exciting pairing. Nicola is an Italian engineer and a PhD in engineering for buildings and urban regeneration, a project manager with a general technical management area for the municipality of Naples with a specific expertise on integrated urban development policies. As a leader and partner of several URBAC networks, he supported the exchange of knowledge and experiences between cities and implemented several projects aiming at promoting urban integrated approach to policies. And I think we're very lucky to have Naples as a real leader in URBAC in general, and in particular, Nicola, who's been involved in those processes. URBAC is one of the inspirations for the IURC program. The IURC is kind of a global version of the URBAC program. And I think, it's been interesting. I also worked in URBAC in the past, and I think it's been very interesting for us to see how you take a program that is very European as URBAC between European cities and how you globalize that. So that's an interesting process. And whenever we have URBAC experts and people with experience from URBAC in the program. We're especially fortunate because it's a that learning between cities in different contexts is a real art, let's say. So, Nicola, over to you.
Thanks a lot, Trisha, for your very kind presentation. It's first, I would like to thank you for your coordination effort during the last months and with our one-to-one exchange with the city of Manaus, Brazil. We have a very super broad topic to discuss today. But from my side, I will try to give you a nice overview of what we've done in Naples in the last years, referring in particular with the community management of public assets. I will share my screen now. So start with the presentation. Okay. I hope you see my presentation. So as I said, I am a unit coordinator at the municipality of Naples. Naples, I hope the most of you know, is a city in the south of Italy, and in particular is the third city of Italy in terms of number of inhabitants. But as for what refer to the metropolitan context, we are the second city in terms of extension of the metropolitan area and the number of population, which is about 3 million of inhabitants. The city has a high density in terms of a number of inhabitants. There's a pretty high urbanized ratio if compared with the green rate, and the accessible parks and recreation spaces is very low if compared with the average of Italian cities. In this context, we have brought in the last years a new community management scheme for the urban commons, and this is what I would like to talk about this afternoon. First, let's see what urban commons are, because since 2012, the municipality of Naples has established this exchange with its communities, with the people, with the inhabitants, and with the active groups of inhabitants, which were claiming public spaces, public gardens to be used and managed with the direct involvement of the users. In this sense, the municipality of Naples has implemented this urban civic and collective use. Is a governance mechanism that takes inspiration from the ancient civic use, a government scheme that has been established in Italy in the 15th century. So it's very ancient under this point of view. And this is based mainly on recognizing participatory institutions which are based on democratic assembly processes. So it's the assembly itself that the municipality recognize and enables to make use of its public spaces. It's a sort of creative use of law or legal hacking, as somebody said. Our dear friend Giuseppe Micciarelli, which is a researcher within the panel of activists. So this legal hacking was promoted by the communities, subverting the classical scheme where the inhabitants ask for spaces and the municipality has to pose a solution. In this case, it was the completely opposite way. In fact, what we have implemented was a mechanism based on the idea of enjoying, guaranteeing the enjoyment of common goods. And for commons, we intend cultural and natural heritage, the essential public services, but also water, air, and what is mainly not really concerning public or private governance. It's something which is people's heritage. But in this sense, we had to fight with law, because in Italy, I guess all over the world, we only have private or public law. And for these, several institutions during the last decades have tried to implement different schemes of management to be agreed with the users of the spaces. We have several examples in Europe, so just like subsides, rental rates, care agreements, but also the community land trust, which is also an instrument adopted by the European Union in the last ERDF scheme, the Syndicat Mehrhausen in Germany or Austria, or squatting, which is obviously one of the oldest way of claiming and making use of the space, but without an agreement. In this case, the adoption of this mechanism of recognizing the urban, civic, and collective use of public spaces has been, as said, theorized by the peoples, by the commoners, who hold a laboratory of 3 years and a half, and this laboratory was participated also by the municipality. So there was an active participation of public officers in this collective work of designing the regulation. But the work was made mainly by the people. And what is the result of this work is as the first result of this work, we had a first regulation that has been approved in 2012, so basically 10 years ago, made of 23 articles that states how and who these assemblies, this group of people, are entitled to use the space, how decisions are made, who has the right to promote and make activities, and all is the guarantee, who guarantees for the use of the space. It's a sort of self-governance scheme where from one side, the municipality recognize the communities and the set of assemblies that make use of the space, that decide what is the use of the space. So the municipality acts like a guarantor, and the community-led initiatives are still are then recognized and institutionalized, ensuring the autonomy of the community itself. So the citizens engaged in the reuse of urban commons, and from the other side, we have the administration that enables the community to make the self-governance practice. So it's a completely autonomous practice. And so the three keywords that I would like to share with you are civic use, so this special regime of private and of public administration, which is the guarantor of the full access of the place, in terms of fire plan, maintenance, surveillance, and cleaning, but who remains the owner without interfering with the activities. And the community, which is must be organized under assemblies, so as to take democratic decisions within the assemblies. But at this price, they keep the right to organize the activities, to run the activities, to gain the means of the productions, the communication, and to run crowdfunding for the co-working areas and for the activities themselves. Under this framework, the first management scheme that I would like to share, and which was first approved, is the case of the ex-asilo Filangieri. We are talking about a former convent in the middle of the town, more than 10,000 square meters of surface, and it's a very huge space within the historical city center where we really have few gardens, few public spaces because of the let's say the ancient implant of the city. And within this building, which was first squatted by a group of cultural professionals, theater and music professionals, these people decided to ask the administration to recognize their use of the space that initially was a squatting activity, and the result was this regulation where we agreed around three main organisms, or at least the administration recognized this group of people willing to make use of this place through these three main organisms. The first is management assembly, who decide or at least shares the decisions regarding the management of the space. But then we have the steering assembly for the activities. So within the steering assembly, we have a theater table, table for music, table for dance, table for journalism, or kids activity, or wherever the people or a community desires to implement within the space. So the management of rooms, of the space, of the time board is decided, shared decided within this kind of assemblies. And then we have a board of trustees. So this is they have a board of trustees, which is the organism that guarantees that the use is still made in compliance with the regulation. Because what we really ask to the people by allowing the community and collective management of the space is the respect of the constitutional rights and the values. So the administration has to be guaranteed that no discrimination is made for gender, for race, for religion, and so that all the constitutional main values are always guaranteed. And in this sense, the Board of Trustees is the organism that is the interface that makes this guarantor role and interfaces with the municipality itself. So how the integrated approach is then guaranteed from the municipal side? We have set it up a double level mechanism. From one side, we have a technical level with a unit project that takes charge of the management of the space in terms of surveillance, fire security, and cleaning, and also for the project related with the renewal of the spaces. And then we have the political coordinator, which is in charge of promoting and fostering the coordination between the different municipal offices which are involved in management of a space, and obviously the other public or private stakeholders that wish to bring their contribution in the management, obviously, of these assets. In this sense, the regulation is fostering a new form of partnership, which goes beyond the classic public-private partnership that we usually hear about in our regulations, in our Italian, but also European laws. It's a sort of public-community partnership, of public commons partnership that is aiming at the preservation of the heritage through innovative mechanism, fostering co-governance, circular economy, and the sort of social infrastructure which are arising as a new kind of institution at European level under different points of view, under different experiences. The main result of this work has been, the last 10 years, is 8 main huge public spaces, but we have beaches, former convents, former prisons, which has been reopened, which which gardens have been brought back to the people, which were abandoned and then have been regenerated with the active contribution of the people. And these are really 8 neighborhood houses where thousands of activities found home, where hundreds of exhibitions, art projects, concerts, dance rehearsal, and dance shows have been put into practice. Obviously, I have to say, with the COVID, we had to slow down this very, very huge effort brought by the people, but luckily we are coming back to sort of normal running plan. And so what are the main advantages that I, as a municipal officer, can bring back to you after this first year of experimentation? First, this kind of management scheme fosters democratic assembly really has empowered several sets of group of inhabitants to experiment, to design new forms of collective enjoyment of public spaces, to design and realize cultural activities, which probably in private spaces could have never find life. But we also have developed new legal and financing techniques that have been experimented in these spaces. We prevented conflicts, and this is another main point, especially when you're suffering for the scarcity of public resources, because we are in a very difficult economical condition in the last years. And as said, the city of Naples in the last years has also known a very good increase in terms of touristic flows, but we have been also knowing very strong forms of gentrification. And in this sense, this kind of community pets allowed to fight gentrification mechanism by revitalizing former depressed and abandoned areas. This also allowed to promote temporary use of some spaces, so also to allow the administration to identify possible real uses for abandoned and underused spaces, and gave voice to all the actors and identities of the people willing to really participate and bring their contribution in our administrative pets. This good practice, this project, this idea of management scheme has been awarded as a good practice at European level. As Tricia said before, we have a long experience in the Urbact project, and Urbact is probably a natural partner with the URC. Because it promotes also integrated policies and finance integrated and participated regeneration, urban regeneration schemes all over Europe. And in 2018, the city of Naples launched this network, which has been approved and financed in the Urbact framework. And in this network, we had the opportunity to select 7 cities that collaborated with Naples during a 3-year span to try to prototype, to make a prototype of our management scheme and design a sort of European public commons governance mechanism together with the local communities, obviously. So each of these 7 cities, and I'm talking about the city of Gdańsk in Poland, Barcelona in Spain, Amsterdam, Ghent in Belgium, Iași in Romania, and Prešov in Slovakia, set up their Urbact local groups, so the group of stakeholders interested in implementing same models of urban civic and collective use, and they've been developing their own public common governance mechanism. Obviously, it's not like a copy-paste mechanism that you can really put into practice when transferring a governance model, because let's say the territorial components are really essential, obviously. But in this sense, we have defined common shared values that brought us to define a really public commons EU mechanism that basically every city could replicate and try to experiment with in any different context. So I invite you to visit civicestate.eu to know more, and also to participate to our survey if you are interested to take part in our movement. But behind that, we also are continuing this work at the city level. So would like to talk about 2 other examples of a management scheme that we are still working on. The first is the San Vincenzo Pier. So also we are moving this sort of approach to natural resources, not only public assets. In this sense, Molo San Vincenzo is one important example, and is a militarized pier where the military navy forces have implanted a site for 50 years. And with this movement of people, the city of Naples is working to bring back to the public use this very important part of the city, and this regeneration path that we are now working on in the last years, and is bringing to a conclusion hopefully in the next 2 years with a project promoted with the National Navy administration. And finally, the regeneration of a former industrial site is one of the other examples that we are that we can bring to you as a as an effort that we are trying to implement regarding the participated regeneration of public spaces. And here we are on the eastern coastal side of the city. This is a beginning regeneration path that we are trying to run with local communities, and it's our next challenge for the future that I hope I will be able to tell you more about in the next years. So thanks a lot, Tricia. I hope you had a nice audio from my side.
We did, yes. Not only a nice audio, but a very nice presentation. I'm glad. I'm so glad that we could hear it. Nicola, I mean, there's so much there to unpack, and I'm going to. I've asked those in the audience. You can, and I think Ivana, who's supporting the session, has have given you instructions. So if you would, there's two ways you can ask a question. If you're shy or you have technical issues, you can write a question in the chat, or you can hit the ask to share video and audio, and you can appear here with us and ask the question in real life. So I'll give you a chance to think about that, and I think I'll just give a little reflection from my side that I think there's it's so rich there, and this is one of those moments where I wish that we were there in real life in Naples and going around the city and seeing these things in real life. This is a good next best thing. I think one of the things that struck me as you're going through the presentation and you're talking about these different projects is that it's very people focused. So sometimes these presentations, you see a lot of buildings and maps about regeneration processes, and you have some maps in there too, but there's a very strong focus on, and that's social cohesion is one of the strong elements of this thematic network. And in my experience working with many cities across, particularly Europe and the Americas, I think if there's one issue that, or one component, one challenge that all cities struggle with, at least who have the consciousness of working towards sustainable urban development, it's social inclusion processes, and there are cities who, like Naples, who are very advanced, and I know you could probably have a whole session on all of the particular challenges, even though you're very advanced and skilled in those processes. And then there are cities who, and sometimes it's cultural. We were talking to a city in Sweden last week as part of the IURC program, and they're saying, for them, the culture is that the state provides. So moving towards having, including citizens in urban development processes sometimes is a challenge. Culturally, people think, I want to get on with my life, and that's to do that. So there's a lot of different elements at play. And I've had the great opportunity to work with some other Italian cities as well. And I know one of the issues that came up, not just in Italy, in other places, in the UK, this was a big issue a lot as well. That and this is this is where the question is coming here, is that in your experience with these projects, one strong challenge, let's say, is the lack of trust with the city or with the municipality, with the state. And did you? I know you cases. So I'm not sure which one, but maybe it's more in general or culturally. Like what were the kind of tactics and strategies in some of these projects that, or was that an issue for you? That kind of that distrust between citizens and the state for kind of meaningful inclusion. And I think related to that, what we call the usual suspects. So you have this. They show up to a lot of these processes and can be very dominating, and sometimes, you know, they're architects and planners in their real life besides, you know, coming to these meetings. So they can be very strong opinions and kind of drowned out others. So
yeah, there's the question of the matter of trust is really an important point for us. I mean, I've not talked about, obviously, several projects where trust was absolutely a blocking point. And yes, we have to abandon at least because we couldn't find an active community able to willing to discuss with the municipality. But in the case of commons, we have been pretty lucky because it's not been we haven't approached people with a project to implement. It's been the people approaching us with the idea. So we have been in this case there was a very inverse process if compared to other regeneration paths, and this was a luck because at the end, yes, there are still issues with trust, but people know what they want exactly and know what is their goal, and the force, the will to go to that goal is much stronger than the lack of trust. And in this sense, yes. So in the case of commons, it's a very nice experience for that point of view. We still have issues, but it's working well. For the others, we have some failure, obviously, in our curriculum. So, but it was our approach to be not that good, and we still have to learn how to do better. We don't have the receipts for everyone.
Yeah. Thank you, Nicola. And I think I'm not glad that you had failure, but I'm glad it's refreshing when we're able to admit that, because that's where the learning comes from. And I think your other point about, you know, where the project comes from, they can't all be bottom up, but certainly when they are, it's, in my experience, more likely to have success. So thank you. I don't see any questions. Already, please.
Thank you so much, Nicola, for your presentation. I was really interested. I had a question about the continuity of the project, because from what you commented, everything started around 2012, so almost 10 years ago now. So how did you manage to give this project a continuity with the different governments, municipal governments, also with the funding? Because I guess that's with the time it can become an issue, and also with the engagement of the people. How could you maintain that over more than 10 years now?
For your question, Aurélie, it's a very important question. I mean, because we have different kind of places. So there are some which have been regenerated few years before the people started to make use of the space. There were some others which were completely abandoned, and so the people themselves started the regeneration of the pets. So there was a sort of self-governance, but also groups of self-recovery that really put into practice some regeneration works. Under this point of view, this is one of the things that brought us to conflict at a certain point. Luckily we managed to convey some kind of financement, and obviously some places were more lucky than others because there were already some financement lines that guarantee to maintain and keep the place running. But obviously there were some others where the people to keep the space open implementing some kind of self-regeneration pets. So the people themselves started the working groups to recover the spaces, and therefore, yes, the activities were slower down because they could not make use of some part of the spaces for some months, and so here again we don't have the receipt, but maybe the suggestion of the things that we are trying to do is the shared planning. So we try to share with the people the planning in a 3-year time of the regeneration and the maintenance work that we have to guarantee. And within this framework, which we are now implementing last year, we are trying to implement at the municipal level in the last years. We are trying to guarantee a certain kind of community of continuity in the activities. Obviously, I'm only referring to the physical side because for the activities for the dance and the old cultural and social activities, it's the community itself that self-finance the activities. We don't take neither the ownership nor the any kind of cost for the activities itself. It's completely free, and it's something really amazing that is made only possible by the willing of the people. I'm talking about doctors who make free visits to the people, or teachers who make free language Italian courses for migrants and things like that.
It was a great question on really interesting response. Thank you, Aurelia and Nicola. Before we move to our next speaker, is there anyone else who wants to ask a question or have a comment? Okay, well, we are going to move on to our next presentation, and then later we'll have time for more questions. And so we've had a presentation IURC City. Part of the IURC program is also region to region cooperation, which looks slightly different than city to city, although they're very related. So we have the region of Valle del Cauca, which you might have heard of Cali in Colombia, more likely, but Cali sits in the Valle del Cauca, and it's paired with Coimbra in Portugal. And their focus for the cooperation is on sustainable agriculture with a special approach on agro-food chains and food security, and tourist routes around cultural heritage and regional food, regional and products. So related to goods such as wine or nature. I'm delighted to have to be able to introduce, and that we have Mariana Caicedo, who's here with us today. Currently the coordinator of external affairs for Pacifico. She's a political science who has a specialization in international cooperation from the University of Madrid, and also in sustainable development and corporate social responsibility. And she works in the business and social sectors on sustainable development, social innovation, social intervention, and public and private partnerships. Mariana, we're delighted to have you here. So over to you.
Thank you very much, Tricia and Nicola and all the IRC colleagues that have been working so much in this event. Good morning for some of you, and good afternoon for some of you as well. I'm speaking, as Tricia said, from Cali, Valle del Cauca, which is the capital of the southwest region, very close to the Pacific region. We are 4.4 million inhabitants, and we have an immense biodiversity, and I'm also inviting you to come and visit us because this is a very nice place to be. Today, as Trisha said, we're thrilled because we just signed an agreement, a cooperation agreement with Coimbra, Portugal, which we are very sure that will help us thrive in the things that matter to us mainly as a region. That's food security and agriculture, sustainable development, which is very, very important for this region, that it's mainly its economic development is based in agriculture. So I'm thrilled to tell you this and start this cooperation with Portugal. Today I'm here to tell you a story of hope, a story that allows us to believe that we are capable and that we have the power to overcome the most biggest challenges we have ahead. We have an agenda, very a global agenda, sustainable development goals that Colombia has signed in order to tackle the most biggest challenge we have. But we are convinced that in order to be able to achieve those goals, it's impossible to work by ourselves. Public sector is not the only responsible entity to overcome these challenges we have ahead. So Compromiso Valle, this is the dream I'm telling you about, is a sustainable collaboration vehicle where public, private, social leaders from all kinds and sizes, business from all sizes have come together to tackle the most challenges, the biggest challenges we have in our region. We are a result of this collective and dynamic construction among citizens, companies, foundations. We have a lot of foundations here in our region that has joined the public sector to find solutions to our local reality. This is a pilot. Of course, we have many more challenges, but this is a pilot that through 5 priorities, we are assured that we're going to close gaps in different areas that I'm going to tell you about a little further on. But it will be concentrated in the most vulnerable communities that we have in the region. So what are we doing here? We are building opportunities for those that have been out of the system, that have been excluded. And we are now working together to bring them to the system and to bring new opportunities to our territory. The 5 priorities we have tried to work now in 5 months that we've been operating are these that you see in screen. The first one is about food security. That is one also that we will be part of our cooperation agreement with Portugal. Here, what we've done is that we have increased the meals that are served in community kitchens, and we have increased them by 20% by bringing the private sector into the strategy. This is done in local kitchens where the social local leaders cook the meals, the private sector and the public sector give the resources, and the church operates the kitchen. So it's a win-win situation. We are now giving around 13,000 meals and like 600,000 more with the public resources. So this is a strategic partnership that is also giving an opportunity to a lot of immigrants we have from Venezuela. The second thing we're working is in employment. Nowadays, because of the impact that the COVID-19 have had in a region and in a planet in a global scale, a lot of jobs have been reduced in our local reality economy. So we want to thrive this. We want to encourage the economy to produce or to create new jobs. That's not easy if the productive sector is not growing. But what we're trying to do is to connect the job training that is actually done today with the job opportunities. And we have seen that there are 2 sectors that are growing very rapidly, which are the ICT sector and the BPO sector with the contact and call centers. So we are looking to train mainly the youth in different skills for the ICT sector and in English, for them to be able to get into the contact centers and get a job. We have really high goals. We pretend to train 10,000 youngsters and be able to employ 90% of them. That's a really high and a very challenging goal, but it's something that we need to work on today, because the youth people are not nowadays are not able to develop a life project from employment. So we really have to tackle this issue, and we have been doing it together and having very significant results. The third thing we're working on is entrepreneurship. We would like to contribute to strengthen the local economy and foster new income generation for those that are not able to get into the productive system through entrepreneurship. And how are we going to do that? We will strengthen business that are working, really small micro businesses, supporting them with things that are so difficult for them to achieve, is access to credit or microcredit or capital seed, and helping them in technical assistance to enhance their different businesses. The methodology we're using from different foundations that have been working on this for a long time have great results with some of them are like, if they get into the program, this business get into this program, they will increase their sales in 150%. So there's a lot of hope in that methodology to thrive those businesses that are still now working and that had to struggle very much during the COVID-19 pandemic, that we're still there, but we think we're getting out soon. The fourth priority we're working on is called Life Project Transformation. And this is a very strategic thing we're working on, because here we have some youngsters that have been, as I said at the beginning of this presentation, that have been systematically excluded from the system. They have not finished school. They have maybe be part of gangs. Maybe they have been in illegal activities. So nobody's gonna employ them. They don't have we have a term here that's nini. They don't work, they don't study, but they have children. So they have to get money into their homes, but they don't have a way to do it. So we're gonna work with 5,000 youngsters that are in these conditions and help them to develop a new way of life. And thus working also with the business, with the CEOs of the companies, so they have to engage them in their companies and give them a second opportunity. The sixth priority we're working on is social leadership. Solid leadership is called here, but what we're trying to do there is to strengthen social leaders, local leaders, for them to do social and political oversight in their neighborhoods, and to be very participative in all the public arena, probably thinking how we can develop our cities, and it's very concentrated in thriving participatory planning, which Nicola was telling us about. So we think that that's a way we engage people in the city. People start to be more active in decision making, which is important for us. And in a way, people empower. It's a way of empowering local leaders. This is a pilot, as I said. We're gonna try to have an impact on 30,000 people, direct impact on 30,000 people. We're working now in 7 cities of the region. We still have 42 to go. We have 42 in total, so we have a long way to go. But this is a way of starting. We are showing all our society that it's important to work in alliance where we're putting on the table not only financial resources, but we're putting methodologies, know-how, and we are sharing the responsibility of really closing the gaps locally. Now companies have a new way of thinking. we're not thinking only in generating income, which is very important as well, because that makes the economy going, but we also are responsible of making a sustainable region. That's what we want. We want to maintain in time. We want to our kids to be able to have still water and fresh air and conditions to develop. So companies now in Valle del Cauca are thinking this way, and the only way to achieve it is to working with the public sector. So you were asking about confidence. Here we're putting all our courage and our strength in creating a link that continues in time, and we are aware that the only way of doing it is working together, public, private, social leaders, academia, and all the actors that are active in our society. Now, in 5 months that we've been operating, we have been working with 13,000 people with only 4 months of implementation, and we have allocated important resources. This is not the solution for everything, but we started with $7.5 million that the business sector said, I'm going to put this for this program. Then other companies gave us more money, and then the national government said, I'm going to put $8.4 million because we believe this collective impact vehicle is really going to transform the way we're doing things in Colombia. I think we're the first type of collective impact vehicle that's working in the country, and we are really eager to escalate and to bring this into the another level. What we're doing as a conclusion, we are building opportunities, working together. You see here some photographs of the CEOs of the companies going to the communities and having a really strategic dialogue with the people, trying to understand their needs and trying to really build together what we hope is going to change and transform our territory. I'm going to leave it there and probably can receive some comments if you have, or
Thank you, Maria. There's again, there's so much information there. There's the various points. I thought, wow, and I wanted to ask more about it, and then you moved on to something else as you were giving the presentation. I thought, oh no, it's in my head, and I'm sure that's true for our audience as well. I think, I mean, it's very impressive because I'm working with the city to city component, so I'm not that close to the regional to region, nor in the IURC program, but also it's not my background as much as the public sector. So it's particularly interesting about your perspective, about the work, about the scale, the amount of investment, the number of people, your ambition, which is a great ambition. I'm living in, as you know, in a different part of Colombia, and I'm wondering, about. I mean, one of our goals in this program is not only the sharing between, in this case, Colombian and a Portuguese city, but also national cities having the opportunity. Like we know that Cali is sharing some things with Barranquilla through our program that they wouldn't have had that platform necessarily, even being in the same country. And I think the same between Valle del Cauca and where I live, Valle de Aburrá, having that opportunity to share between regions within the country as well as other regions in the world is so important. And I think, you touched on it, that confidence and trust is. I know that's also in living in Colombia. That's a real issue, trust. But I think in every country it just manifests itself in different ways, right? And so I think that I'm sure that that's also a big challenge through your work, and I guess the scale at which you're, the speed at which you're working. And I think the other thing that occurred to me is, again, connecting back. I know not everyone here listened to the first part of this the program, but there was, and this is one of the underpinnings of European policy in general, and the IURC program specifically, is the working more across stakeholders in a more transversal way and the multi-level governance. So you showed, for example, from your funding, so you're able to attract funding from the national government and at the local level and at the local level of implementation. And I think just to give the audience a moment, so far you've been shy, but I guess my question would be, to start things off, which is kind of general and hard, so I apologize, but if you had to name kind of your number one challenge in this process, it will exclude the, because I think that's everybody's number one challenge. What is your number one challenge of kind of going to scale? You said you're in seven cities and you have to reach 42. Is it, I mean, I know finances are always an issue, but you know, aside from that, what do you need to overcome or work towards to get to that level that you want to be in those 42 other cities?
Working in a collective impact vehicle is very challenging itself, because every foundation we work with, a lot of foundations have a way of doing things. So this is my methodology, and my methodology is the best, no? And then we have had the chance to bring them to the table and convince them that we have to work to a common goal, and that we have to some way to work in the same methodology, like bring them together. It's very easy to work by yourself. It's very difficult to work in a partnership. I think that's been the most challenging thing. We are like the backbone organization, so we have to bring people in. We're working with more than 20 foundations and more than 80 companies. So everyone has an idea of what should happen. And then it's the public sector, and the public sector say, I have a development plan, so I cannot go outside of the development plan. So bringing this idea of we have the same goals, and we have, for example, we have signed the SDGs as a national government, and then we have the big challenge, for example, of bringing poverty to 8%. So how are we going to do that? We're not sure yet. So I think convincing everyone to work towards the same goal, and the process of getting there has been the most challenging part. But I think the people at the end are really convinced that doing it together is the only way we can do it. But the whole process of getting there has been really difficult.
Great, I can imagine. And I guess doing it together means different things for different people. And I think you've touched on a really good point, is that, you know, people like to bring their own methodologies and ideas, and those need to be honored as well, but not to the point where it like hold back the process, right? So that's one of the big challenges, I think, across the board, you could say. We have a question from the audience, Diego Uriela, who says, thank you for your excellent presentations. What do you think are the keys to the success of the private sector participation in cooperation projects? And how could urban cooperation be made more attractive to the private sector in general to create synergies? And I think this is more for Mariana, but Nicola, you're certainly welcome to weigh in on that as well.
I think it has taken the private sector, it has taken a long time for them to understand the role in achieving these new sustainable development goals, and what is the role as a company in doing so. But we had a really difficult time here in Cali and in Colombia. We had a national strike for 60 days. And I think that was a moment for them, for the big companies, small and medium companies, to start to rethink the role. I think that obviously has had a tremendous impact in the economy. I think it was very negative impacts for all of us. But if I could say something good happened from that was that companies started saying, we have to do something more than what we're doing now. And that's not doing the job of the state. That's working together in order to overcome all the challenges we have. We have a really high Gini coefficient in Colombia. We have a really developed cities,
very
and then
unequal for those
very
who are
unequal,
conversant
exactly.
in the
Very unequal. And we have one of the biggest ports of Colombia. It's in Buenaventura. It's 60 kilometers away from Cali, and we have poverty rates of 80%. We have people that don't have potable water nowadays, and they have all the resources in water. They have the biggest rivers you can imagine. So I believe that we are living times of reflection. And I think that now companies are more engaged on having a more proactive role in overcoming all these challenges we have.
Thank you for your thoughts, Mariana. I believe Trisha might be having some problems right now, but I wanted to ask Nicola if you had anything to add to what Mariana has said.
No, yeah. First, I want to thank Mariana for her presentation. It was really super interesting to me, and yeah, I think that the idea is pretty similar, even if she brought the contribution for a very different level. But what is important nowadays is try to implement to make flourish some kind of empowering environment. So spaces and environments where all the people feel like they're getting their part of a wider regional city objective of bringing the development forward, of improving the living condition of our neighborhoods, of our citizens. So it's important to make to create a complexity, a set of tools that empower the people to develop. And I will try to know more about the microcredit work that you are setting up in your project. Regarding the question of Diego, yes, I believe that urban cooperation with the private sector is pretty difficult from our side. In case of big companies, maybe there is, as Mariana said, there's this feeling of need to be more responsible is increasing. So in the last year, we see that the social contribution, the social effect of an entrepreneurial project is becoming important for main companies. For the smaller one, maybe creating cooperations more smaller level is getting more and more. Is still difficult for us because it's still difficult for us because I would say that at neighborhood level we have very different approach, because maybe at regional level is quite different, but at city level, the small entrepreneurs must be recognized by the citizens of the neighborhood when they make agreements with the municipality. So the question is how good we are in providing some kind of attractive context in which the entrepreneurs are really feeling engaged and feel recognized by the people, because it's not something that our role is not to make these agreements be recognizable for the administration. Obviously, it's something that we make for the people, and this is the only solution that I can imagine to answer your question.
Nicola, I think we had a question from our friend Eloisa in Brazil, which I think you might have you very much touched on there. We'll see if either of you have anything to add. I think that supporting local entrepreneurs and social entrepreneurs at the local level is very important in the urban regeneration process. So her question is how to involve the private sector for urban regeneration and urban projects, particularly in a post-COVID scenario. If either of you had anything more to add to that, or thoughts on that?
No, We have seen very interesting responses from private entrepreneurs and also from the communities themselves during the COVID-19. So we are really expecting something changing in the next years in the how these actors participate in urban regeneration scenarios. So it was very interesting for me to see how the communities and also local entrepreneurs pooled together to provide answers, to provide food, to provide medicine to those in need during the first COVID emergency. I don't know if something which is which will be repeating in the next future, because it's been a special response to a special, very special scenario, very unique scenario. But it was very important to me to understand that we are still human, that we still feel the need to be part of this social context in which we live, and it's an hope for me for the next future.
Nicola. Mariana, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Question for Nicola.
Okay, go for it.
We have encountered here that when the community is engaged from the start in an urban project, urban renewal, or just a participatory planning, the citizen security works very well. Of course, you don't have the same problems we have here in citizen security. In Latin America, we have a really big problem with that. But have you noticed that the places that are owned by the people, no, from the beginning, have less crime rates or insecurity?
Dear Mariana, I don't believe that Naples has so few security issues, because we really have some too. So it's not really, it's something that touches our context too. In this sense, I believe that when, I will tell you something before. We had several examples in the last years of community managed spaces or neighborhood spaces, which has been attacked by violence. This is because the community pooling is a risk for many criminals. Let's call it with their name. And in this sense, I believe that the resilience of these communities that keep bringing forward activities has produced the funny results in terms of, we have seen these two words start with a dialogue. So we see users, when a criminal sees children making use of the space because of activities, because some of our spaces are in very difficult neighborhoods, they feel part of the moving machine. And so there's no real solution, but probably this is an answer. I don't know if it's in the future it is going to change, but I believe that this is an answer. So maybe we have to keep giving back them love and social services, and then probably we will involve them, we will catch them in the net, who knows.
Great, I love that interaction. Thank you for that. Ivana, did you want to introduce the Slido now?
Yes, so we currently have one question on Slido, and I will be sharing my screen so you could see the results.
Trisha, everyone, sorry, I just have to leave, so I have to say goodbye to everyone. I'm sorry if I missed these last minutes, but
That's okay.
I really have to go. So it's a personal thing. Okay.
Thank you so much for joining us, Nicola. It's been a very rich experience to have you as part of this session. So we're looking forward to hearing more about these great projects in the future. Thank you.
It's my pleasure and my hope. Thanks a lot. Thank you, Mariana. Thank you, Trisha. Thank you, Ivana. See you soon.
Thank you. And for those, if you don't see it? There's on the right-hand side, there's like a sliding window and it says chat, people, and Slido. So if you go to the Slido tab, you can see the poll there.
Yes. Okay, so now we have more answers coming in. But basically, we want to know, as for sure, our audience right now are participating in the current phase of IURC. So, what are you most excited about? And based on the results, learning about solutions to common sustainable development challenges and problems is at the top of the list, together with travel and coffee breaks, which I think everybody misses traveling, and also meeting their counterparts in person during the study visits. But so moving on to our next question. So earlier we heard about the challenges that our speakers had in implementing their pilot projects. But for our audience, what has been the biggest challenge for your city or region in promoting social cohesion and inclusion in the implementation of urban and regional renewal projects? So we'd like to hear about your experience. If you would like to share that with us. I believe this is an open poll. So have you also earlier during the discussions, there were a lot of questions about involving the private sector. So is that something that you are also struggling with? What else? What other challenges have you encountered?
It's a big question, so people are thinking. That's
Yeah.
okay.
So I'll give you a minute more to think about it. Otherwise, we can also move to the next question, which might be more interesting for the audience. So we have an answer about resources. Do you mean material resources, financial resources? Yep. Okay, so indeed, financial and human capital as resources can be seen as a challenge for urban and regional renewal projects. Moving on to our last question. What pilot project or policy related project to urban or regional renewal and social cohesion that you would like to share with other IURC cities and regions? So, similar again to the pilots and examples that were presented earlier, do you have any other examples that you would like to share with us? So please include the name of the city or the region where it is being implemented. And I believe you could also maybe mention a website so that the other participants can check it out after the session.
It's important, in reality. Okay, I just need to wash this. Yeah.
All right, so on the screen, we can see the Compromiso Valle pilot project, which Mariana has also presented earlier. You can check their website at compromisovalle.org to know more about the pilot project. So as mentioned earlier, this is being implemented in Valle del Cauca in Colombia. But I believe we are also running out of time. And so perhaps we can end our session on this topic.
I think before we end, Ivana, I'm going to be a little mean, maybe like the teacher calling on students. I see in the audience that we have Juan Antonio Speas and Edgardo Bolio from Merida, and I had the great pleasure of working with them in the last phase of the program, Merida, Mexico, which was paired with West Athens municipality as part of Greater Athens. And I think, they were, I don't think they know, they're a real success story for the last phase of the program. They were able to transfer the practice of sustainable urban mobility planning from, which is a European framework, to Merida, and also attract investment from the city to implement it and start doing some pilots. And I wonder if maybe Edgardo or Juan Antonio would be interested in sharing, since we have a few more minutes, sharing a little bit about that transfer experience. We've heard a lot about urban regeneration, but that's particularly related to mobility and really impressive social inclusion and citizen participation processes in Merida. So
They would like to share their thoughts. They have the option to ask to share video and audio, and we can invite them on screen.
On the upper right hand side, or if you just wanted to write something in the chat, but if you're willing to say something, but I know I'm putting you on the spot. And if they're not able to connect, I just think it was a great case of best practice from the last phase of the program that we hope to replicate with across our new pairings. And I think it's a great example of the methodology of the IURC program, which is very much sharing between cities. It goes both ways. So on the side of Merida, we had learning from this European framework, and this is, I think, very important related to the social cohesion and social inclusion in West Athens. They had the framework, and part of that framework is citizen participation, but there was so much a culture of that as there is in Merida. So great learning that was transferred from Merida to a European city, in this case West Athens, on really effective social citizen participation and a very meaningful. Sometimes cities qualify citizen participation when you hold a meeting and people show up and say, okay, people have participated, and that's is not the case in Merida. I mean, it's a really meaningful social inclusion processes and citizens and residents really having a say. And I think that ties into what we were talking about earlier about trust and confidence and the success of urban development projects.
Yeah, I think Juan Antonio, he says that he doesn't have a mic, but he would like to share their SUMP, which he posted the link to in the chat. And he agrees that they did have a lot of citizen and stakeholders participation. And from planning, in this phase of the IURC, they will go from planning to action.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Juan Antonio. Appreciate that. And it's a great case study. And for us as a program, are really, really inspirational. And we're happy to have them back in this phase of the program working with Parma. So that's my shout out to one of my favorite cities of Merida. So I think with that we can close the session. Thank you so much, Mariana, for that wonderful presentation. And I know I learned a lot. It's not an area that I know so much about, so I'm learning, and I appreciate all the great input. And Nicola has gone, but fantastic presentation as well from Nicola. I'm really looking forward to seeing how their cooperation with Manaus in Brazil unfolds, and of course Bairro do Cauca with Coima in Portugal. So hopefully we'll do this next year in person, but in any case, thank you so much for joining us today. I think this is what the value that IURC brings is this possibility of giving space and platform for cities to share their successes and challenges along the way. So thank you. Wishing you a very good rest of your day or evening if you're in Europe or other parts of the world. Thank you, Ivana, for your support in this session, and for all of the IURC and the Central Coordination Services for their wonderful, it's been a real challenge to organize this event, and you've done a great job. You can go now to networking. So if you pop over to networking, there'll be a kind of, I think, randomly put you together with someone who I'm sure is very interesting, or you can go to the expo and learn more about the other IURC regions. So we'll close with that. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mariana. Thank
Bye.
you, Trisha.
Thank you, Maria.
Bye.
Thank you.